Oh, we lost the stream. I think we're back on. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Hey, hello. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are going to go back or what the situation is, but okay, there we go. Let's see if we go back. Um, okay, let's see here.
We lost Chuck.
We lost Chuck. Did we lose you too? Did everybody get
Yes.
shut?
Uh-huh. I was
Oh,
gone too.
okay. So I think what happened was that we had a solar flare or something take us out. It can happen, but
Right.
we're Chuck will come back. But
Okay.
yeah, so uh, back up. Okay, we're back up.
Okay. Great. Yay.
Yay! It happens. It was probably a solar flare or something like
Ah,
that.
Oh,
there he
so
is.
sorry. I was frantically trying to get back on
We
my
were all.
Wi-Fi. It
It's
just
no big
went off.
deal.
Okay.
It's.
So
I was
sorry.
just blown
But
away when Teresa said that she had transitioned because I mean I
yeah,
don't
I
know if
was
it's
very
appropriate
impressed
to say
also.
I can't tell. I mean nobody could tell.
Yay.
No,
I
Thank
don't
you.
know if
no.
that's bad or good, but I mean like I would never know unless you mentioned
Well,
it.
it's a
But
sincere compliment, and I think it's
oh, is
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I think you're beautiful.
she's
You're beautiful.
she's very pretty. I don't. Please go ahead. You were talking about having a very vast background and that you had
Hmm.
studied for 15 years as a professional singer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I was a countertenor, so I did mostly Baroque and medieval music, and I did some 20th century music, modern music, but no 19th century music. We skipped the 19th century, and that was a lot of fun. I did some regional opera in the United States and
Oh,
toured in
I love
Europe and
opera.
Asia, and
That's
yes,
so exciting.
it was a lot of fun. And then I had a very bad breakup with someone in New York and couldn't bring myself. I'm from a very uneducated country family in Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi, which is where most of the book takes place.
Yes, yes. Oh God, it's so
And,
good.
thank you,
Well,
and
well, you're.
thank
I was
you,
just going to say
and
you're brilliant. You're brilliant. I mean, your book is so intelligently written, and you've more than compensated for any
thank you,
educational deficiencies. Believe me. But I'm just fascinated to hear these aspects of you I was not aware of.
thank you.
Makes you.
Yes,
I just admire you more.
thank you. And I did visual art when I was really young, mostly portraits of friends and family. And then I formed an LGBT country western band called. My name was Doug Stevens. So
I'm a little bit country. I'm a little bit
I,
rock and roll.
I did you ever do opera and country fusion? Can I imagine that?
I'm not sure how that would work. I'll think
I
about
don't
it
know
though.
either, but
It's
I had to ask
very
about it.
Oh,
creative.
a rodeo, rodeo.
Oh, you're right. Yes, right. With Agnes DeMille, the choreographer. I think the
Yeah.
original choreographer for Rodeo.
Oh yes. Oh, I'm
And,
sure you.
and oh no, was that? Yeah, that was Agnes DeMille because I was thinking of Martha
Oklahoma.
Graham.
Oh my goodness, you've got
Well,
a whole other book here. Just your life story. I hope you write
yes,
it.
yes. But
Yeah.
Oklahoma, you could argue that Oklahoma was a combination. And a lot of people thought
Yes.
that, and Oklahoma bombed when it first came out. Didn't they have to go in and do it again? Because
Um.
the first night it did terror. I think they opened outside Broadway and it bombed, and
Well,
then they had to go back and do it again.
it might have had out of town tryouts, and that's very common. A lot of hit Broadway shows have had disastrous out of town tryouts because Oklahoma just changed the whole landscape of the Broadway theater. It was so revolutionary back in what was it, 1946, I think, when it came out,
Wow.
or
Yeah,
45. Yeah.
and I remember reading a book. I can't remember what it was, but the producers, I think it had opened in Chicago and bombed, and they were sitting in a coffee shop, just like, oh my God, it's a failure, whatnot. And the person eating next to them, it was like they were discussing Oklahoma. Like
Wow.
how can we save this? We're never going to get our money back, you know. But that would be an example of those two genres coming together. So,
Yeah.
wow, what an amazing life, Teresa. So, I gotta. What blows my mind about your writing is that I mean, maybe I'm gullible, but it like all seems so real.
Hmm.
It all seems so real to me. Like, well, of course, the aliens came and they seeded with the chimpanzees, the hominids 185,000 years ago. This makes complete sense. And then the other thing that I thought was like, it made you think about angels, right? What the heck is an angel? Is it possible that there's no such thing as angels? There's just freaking aliens. And whether or not the species is good or bad, like you look at the story in the Bible of Abraham, and he gets visited by two messengers, which is the Hebrew word malachim, which is the same as angels. And so people knew that these messengers were they're from God, like they were aliens. The son, and you have in the Genesis the sons of God came down and had sex with the daughters of man or something like that. And so it's almost like it's talking about seeding, right? So it was just like I was like reading this and I felt like I was Spock having a breakdown, like, she does this so well. She does this so well.
That's great. I love it.
So
Well,
who
you know,
go ahead.
my third book, which is I haven't sent you, but it's published, is called Share Emeth, which means the gates of truth, right? In Hebrew. So
Emeth, yeah.
there's Hebrew stuff and ancient Judaism, especially in the books as well, and in the third book also deals a lot with Jewish people, and in the fourth book there is even a chapter called Teshuvah.
Oh, wow. You know, it's interesting when so many of the people that were involved in Star Trek were Jewish, and in fact, William Shatner is a Kohen. He's considered
Wow.
he's descended from Aaron, the high
Mhm.
priest, and so he is in Jewish religion. He has to conduct the atonement ceremony on Yom Kippur. We bring the Cohens in to give the blessing that we have been atoned. And to this day, we have the Cohen still do this. So he has to be there. Well, he has to come. Well, I can do it. No, you can't. We got, Yom Kippur, man. You gotta show up, baby. Otherwise, this gig is not happening, right? So,
Great.
this led a lot of when they were trying to get comfortable with the Jews. They ran. Let's help white people get comfortable. They're not white like you and I. They look white, maybe a little bit, right? But they put out this ad, the Christians to make friends. I don't know what the name of the organization, but they had a picture of Star Trek where it was Spock and William Shatner with phasers on stun. And then the ad by the Christian Council, like Friendship with the Jews, said, Jews are very interesting people. So it was almost as if saying, they're part human, part alien, and we shouldn't be too frightened of the alien people. And so there is this kind of overlap in pop culture that Jews are maybe aliens. They're not like us. And so I think that's really funny that you are doing that. Right?
Oh, that's great.
I'm
Yay.
being very enlightened here today.
So who were your influences? I want to know, Teresa, who were your influences as a writer?
Well, let's see. I did take some notes here, so let me take a look at my notes. Oh, I love Evelyn Waugh. I don't know if you know his writing, like Brideshead Revisited. No, it's just I love the language more than anything, and also another author whose language I really love is Lawrence Durrell. He was kind of a what not a very nice man, but he wrote beautifully. And
Uh-huh.
he wrote the Alexandria Quartet,
Oh, okay.
Justine.
All right. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, yeah.
The first book is Justine, and then mostly British authors from the 1920s,
Oh,
like
yeah. That's good stuff.
I just love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Robert
And
Graves, Mary Renault.
wow. And if you felt like there was a theme with the love of Tyamni, do you feel there was a moral message other than the fact that the angels are really aliens? Some are good, some are bad, some sabotage, some don't. I mean, like, what is the underlining message that you felt you wanted to make in the book?
Um, it's all about love. That. In fact, I think in the maybe close to the beginning of the book, I think Hathor, who is sort of like the Osset or the Isis character,
Yes, yes, yes.
says says love is the most powerful force in the
Oh,
universe.
yes.
And love is the only thing that will save your people. And so that is what I hope to, the message I hope to bring about. And right, and so it's by loving each other, realizing we are all connected. We are all, the same consciousness, the same views into the same consciousness. And that if we know that we are the same thing, then how can we hate each other?
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
that's
So
good.
what's wrong with the other guys? What's wrong with the polka? How do you say that? The polka,
Um, the Botakas.
the potakas.
Yeah,
Yeah. What's
Botakas.
their problem? Like, why do they think that it's ultimately better for the universe that humans be destroyed? Is that their
No,
motivation?
no. They when they first appear at Earth, they're mercenaries.
Yes.
And they create biological weapons, and they found that humans were a really great um, resource to experiment with, to use biological weapons on, and to demonstrate their effectiveness before they sold these biological weapons to other entities who wanted to use them.
Yeah, so that was what I mean, like, they really are evil. They are fallen angels. I mean, like, they're just like crazy. But there's spiritual protection too throughout this book. Like, you have people showing up and they're kind of like angels that it's just so good. It's so
Hey,
interesting.
good.
I'm
Uh,
wondering before we close if you could
oh, yeah.
did you have any more questions,
Well,
John?
I did have a question. I've asked other authors this, but I know just from my own writing, it takes on its own life.
Yeah.
Characters take on their own life, and I want to ask you: have you ever had your characters, quote unquote, go off the script, like they hijacked your story and took it in a whole different direction than what
Completely.
you were expecting? Did you go through that with this book? Because
Yes,
your
I
book is
did.
so multidimensional.
The main character, Batresh, I started when I began to write. She was. I began at the point where the little boy is sitting in the car at the courthouse in Lee County in 1962, and he's looking out at these old men sitting on benches. And that was a memory that I have from my early childhood. My mother's driving. We're going to pick up my dad from work, and we're on the street that goes along the courthouse. And I looked out at these older men. They were probably retired or farmers, but they were all old. And I was wondering, first of all, why are old men sitting here on these benches, reading newspapers, whittling? And so that's where I started. And I wanted to have Batresh come, and I thought, who is she going to be? And so I went into the sci-fi thing, and then I made her into someone who was angry about having to go on these missions, angry and
Yes.
Yeah.
right. And so I didn't know that she would be angry, and I didn't know that she would be like an angry, spoiled child, really, until the fourth book, until Teshuvah.
Well, she doesn't know if she believes in it. That's
No.
what she says,
Yeah.
right? That she doesn't know if
Mhm.
she believes in it.
Right. She doesn't want to go on the missions, and they kind of force her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to read a little bit
Yeah.
of The Love of Tyamni for our audience?
Well, actually, the part that I thought would be interesting for the audience is from the book that I'm writing now, which is the fourth book, called The Contendings. And
Okay.
this is when the little boy, who's a 5-year-old boy in the first book, is
Mhm.
now in his 30s, and he lives in New York City, where I lived. In fact, the name of this chapter is 229 East 11th Street, which is where I lived. And
Oh,
and it starts out with him having breakfast at a Ukrainian greasy spoon called veselka, which means rainbow in Ukrainian. But it's in
mm.
a very Jewish area, what was a very Jewish area at one point. Okay, so this is how that chapter begins. He breathed in the aroma, beets, pork, carrots. He tore off a piece of challah and dipped it. Sitting in the dining room at Veselka, he saw an endless stream of people pass by. Million-footed Manhattan, he whispered, quoting Walt Whitman. That morning, while lying in bed with Houston, his dog Elvis asleep on the floor, he'd been awakened by an electric pop. It felt like intention. Even though he had been asleep, it felt as if he'd been waiting for it. But he was jolted upright. The flash, a white light, originating from a point in the air above the floor, had been so bright he sat up. Elvis sat up and was looking at the same point in the air. What's going on? Houston asked wearily. Did you see that? Denny asked. See what? A light. Denny looked at his dog lying on the floor. Like a camera flash. Elvis saw it too. Go back to sleep, Houston said. Don't you have rehearsal? He remained sitting up, his mind buzzing. Had it been a vision? The air crackled with electricity. Someone had been watching him. Even now, 3 hours later, leaving the Selka, he looked around suspiciously. An unnaturally tall, voluptuous woman walked towards him on 10th Street. She looked at him directly, focused. Her face broke into a conspiratorial smile as if they shared a secret. She glistened with perspiration in the hot summer morning. Am I being paranoid? Walking up to 11th Street, he turned left, passing his building. He saw a young, desperate woman wearing short shorts and a ripped t-shirt. Got $5? She hissed. To his left was a shriveled man, his face in shadow from the hood over his head. He wore a thick winter coat in the hot July sun. Sensa? He whispered, referring to sensimilla, a powerful kind of marijuana. Denny looked up at him, briefly making eye contact. He kept walking. You don't ignore me, the man shouted after him. Denny's eyes widened in fear, but he kept walking, focusing ahead. You say, no thank you, sir, to me. Why did I look at him? Denny wondered. He knew not to make eye contact with those people, half mad from desperation. On the subway, 2 women sat across from him. They stared at him. They seemed normal enough, but they stared. They wore identical raincoats, even in this hot weather. Older, blonde, and freckled. Were they sisters? Looking down at their hands, he looked away quickly. The women had 3 fingers on each hand. They were watching him. I'm being paranoid. Looking at his feet, at soft yellow walking shoes, he felt he was in a dream. At 110th Street, he exited the subway. While walking on a path to the cathedral, St. John the Divine, a stone smashed into the pavement in front of him. He stepped back. He looked up quickly to see who threw it. No one was there. He looked down at the stone, then back up to the roof. His heart raced. He held his breath. The stone that crashed in front of him was big, almost a foot cube. It could not have fallen. The building was too far away. It had to have been thrown. It had to have been thrown by someone with superhuman strength. Scaffolding snaked up the side of the building 50 meters away. Who could have done this? Looking down at the stone again, he froze. It was worn, old, not recently cut. He looked up at the construction site on the roof of the cathedral. There were no workmen. He looked down at the stone again, a corner embedded in asphalt. If he had been 2 feet ahead, it would have killed him. He looked around to see who else may have seen, but he was alone. He glanced to his left, at the peace fountain, a jumbled bronze mass of animal parts, the decapitated head of Satan hanging upside down, disembodied angels' wings. Why would someone want to kill me? Walking on, he looked up at the construction site again. Going down into the crypt, he walked across an uneven wooden walkway laid over the excavated dirt on the crypt floor. He turned to a makeshift metal door. A naked, bright light bulb mounted to the wall beside it seemed to, at the same time, be blindingly bright and fail to light the surrounding earth. He opened the door and entered the rehearsal space.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Those things really happened to me, which is odd, you know, that the pop in the air, and then and I thought, is someone watching me from another dimension? What is going on from the future?
Have you ever seen a UFO or had contact information? Like some of our viewers have, like the woman whose cherries, she saw a ship and then all the cherries were gone. Like, what the hell is that? Are they like eating our food? like, is that just BS? But then I thought about it. Well, yeah, if they're surviving in our atmosphere, and if they're carbon based, well, that makes sense. But I mean, it's like, have you ever had any weird stuff happen to you that made you think like
yes.
maybe we're not alone? Or
Well, my boyfriend, when I went to college in St. Louis, and I had a boyfriend there, my first serious relationship, and he and I had gone to Kansas City. We're driving back. It's like a 4-hour drive maximum, and when we got home, the sun was rising, and I thought, this is odd, and I looked, and we'd been on the road for 8 hours. So I'm wondering if maybe there was some time missing.
yes. How
Yeah,
fascinating.
that is.
Yeah,
That is.
it was crazy. And then again, this stone thing. I was walking to rehearsal right beside the peace fountain that I described at St. John the Divine Cathedral. We rehearsed, and we were rehearsing medieval liturgical dramas, and it was in the crypt of the cathedral. You know, there were all these. They were restoring the crypt, and so there were all these
Yeah.
like dug up earth, and I remember one sharp like marble tomb or coffin that was sticking up out of the ground. But I was walking on my way there, and this huge stone fell on the ground on the walkway in front of me, and it buried the corner of it buried into the earth. I'm like, what was this? There was
Yeah.
a construction site, but no one was there, and it was too far away, you know. So
That is crazy.
isn't it?
Wow. Wow. So, Teresa, I have a couple quick questions before we close
Sure.
today. Is it your voice in the audiobook?
No,
Oh,
it's Jack Claff.
Oh,
Jack Claff was the first person killed in Star Wars. That's his claim to fame.
I was.
He's a beautiful voice, just beautiful. And I fell in love with him when I listened to his doing the Alexandria Quartet by Lawrence Gerald. It's just beautiful, beautiful voice. And he has recorded the first book, and he's also going to do the second book. They're starting on it next month.
wow. Awesome.
I just have to ask you quickly, are you going to maybe do the voice for at least one of your books? Read one of your books? Your voice is so beautiful. People have even been commenting on how much they love hearing you read. And I was going to ask you if you were going to do the audiobooks.
Well, I have been asked to by some fans, you know, so I might.
Please do.
Well, thank you again, Teresa. And the book is The Love of Tyam, and it's a series. Be sure and check it out. We have a couple announcements before we close. And hold, you guys, just don't go anywhere. First off, we do have a monthly winner for our raffle to get a free reading with me. And the winner is, dun, 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 don't have my drums with me, Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo is the winner of our free tarot reading with me. If you'd like to get that reading, just send me an email at whimsyanderson@gmail.com and we'll schedule you. My last announcement is we have selected the book for September and October. It's going to be going on until October because we're going to be gone on holiday for September. But it is Belle, a novel. Belle, a novel. Congratulations to Judy Ann Jamerson, the author of Belle. Really a good book, and we look forward to it. Teresa, will you come back again?
I would love to.
I think that we would like to have you back, and maybe we will read the second book. I can't wait to read that one. That sounds so good.
Thank you. I'm about 3/4 of the way through with the fourth book. So
Oh, she teased us, and now we want it. We want it now. All right. So, Chuck, do you have any announcements before we close the show?
Oh, just please like and subscribe my own channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. Watch Chuck's Captivating Chat every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's about all I have to say right now.
All right, everyone. We're taking off. So be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. And we'll see you next time. Be well.
thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Teresa.